Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Accountants Are Sexy, Changed My Mind. This time we have a very special guest with us. We have Scott Johnson from Kung Fu Accounting. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for inviting me to invite myself onto your podcast.
Inviting you to invite yourself. Look, you are always welcome. You and I are aligned on many things, so you are always welcome on here. We're going to be dipping into a few things today that's really going to show your values. And one of the tasks I work with accountants on, that's the right way of saying it, is helping them identify who they are as people. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but accountants undervalue who they are, the values that they have, and everything that goes on in the background of their life, and they focus too much on the accounting side. So I love your content on LinkedIn. I love your passion, and I love the fact that you're coming on this podcast to talk about it. So
I'm excited too. Nervous, but excited.
Nervous. Don't be nervous. Just you and me ish.
And my mum. My mum is definitely going to watch.
Yeah, but they are like the best people. Like if I put something out on Facebook, I know it's at least going to get one like.
Yeah.
Right. So, saving our species. Now, this isn't a topic that I would imagine most accountants would say, Kelly, I'd like to come on your podcast and talk about saving our species. So what do you mean by that?
So to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier, when an accountant introduces themselves, they often say, Scott, hi, I'm Scott, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
But unless their name isn't Scott, in which case they say something else.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
But the accounting is the thing that we do.
Yeah.
It's not what we are. And so to go back to your point, who's the human inside? Like, what is this person? There is a whole thing. Accounting might be what you do. I mean, if you run your own business, it's probably 72 hours a day or however many hours there are in a day that you work. But if you're an accountant, you have a job, that's your 9 to 5 or 8 till 6. Mm-hmm. There's a whole other period of time in your life and the time before you were an accountant. There's all that stuff that is really, really important. And what we need to do, I think, is to understand, like, what's the point? Like, why are we here? Like, surely there's more to life than, and don't get me wrong, I love debits and credits. I love a good calculator. I love a spreadsheet. But
oh, yeah.
There's got to be more to it than that, surely. And so I'm on a journey of exploration for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm relatively open, relatively able to share. And if I can help other people find their inner human, then that's great. Because fuck me, we need it. Sorry, I should have asked in the beginning. Can I swear? Is that
You
right?
can swear. I will put a warning on it, but you absolutely can swear. We are pirates after all.
Good. Just not the C word, right?
What, Christmas?
Yeah. Oh, no, the other one. Capitalism. There are no swear words in our house at home. It's I've got 2 little boys, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and there are just words that other people find weird. And so we say, well, actually, swear words are just, it's weird, isn't it? Like, it's just a noise that we make with our throat. Why are some people offended by them?
Scott, this is absolutely my way of thinking as well.
It's weird, isn't it?
I raise the children to say there are no unacceptable words. You just have to understand the emotion that the word means. And if you can if you can describe the emotion that you're trying to convey in other words, then by all means use that word. Yeah. So that's how we handle it.
Sometimes just fuck is a really emotive way of saying it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's fine. My son's going to be 20 in 2 weeks' time. And he definitely a swearer because he plays a lot of games and I can hear him swearing. But when he comes down to the table, he doesn't use swear words aggressively. He doesn't swear at me. He swears in context. It's much more grown up. My daughter doesn't like swearing hardly at all. She would prefer to use a different word. So I like swear words. Like
I really did. At home, in my family home, we didn't swear in front of our parents.
Yeah.
I'm encouraging my boys to swear in front of me because I think it's funny for no other reason. It's really funny when a 5-year-old says shit. It's really, it's weird. But yeah, so anyway, saving species. Yeah, right. So,
Saving the species and
yeah.
swearing.
So, and actually, that's part of my journey. When I became a dad, I think,
Yeah.
Kelly, you and I, that you know a little bit about the background to me becoming a father. And that changed everything for me. The whole process of having small people moving in, it just two things, I guess. I now am acting in a way where I feel responsible for my actions as a white middle class British male for
Yeah.
two future white middle class British males that are going to come up. So I feel a responsibility to them, but also I feel a responsibility for the world that I'm going to leave them.
Yeah.
And that's where this whole thing came from. Like, we need to save our species. It's hotter than it's ever been. It's wetter than it's ever been in places. It's drier than it's ever been. It's more on fire than it's ever been before. And that's probably, almost certainly, the science is suggesting that that's people like my's fault.
Yeah.
A white middle class British male who had a good idea to turn that forest into cattle ranches or something. We've got a lot to answer for, people like me. And so I want to help us as a species learn from people who know better. And I've done a lot of reading, I've done a lot of research, but ultimately my job is to be kind of like a burglar alarm, to say, do you know what, something really bad is going to happen if you don't address this right now. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, I really haven't, but I've done a lot of reading, and I would like to share the knowledge that there's something wrong, something's going off, we need to take action now. And so that's kind of why I invited myself here.
I think there's a lot of talk, like it's becoming more and more important to people that we talk about sustainability, we talk about what we can do. There are still swathes and swathes of people that are in denial, don't care, don't think they can help. But there is even a group, I don't know if you know about it actually, on Facebook about sustainable. I think it's Catherine. I'm testing my memory now. My memory is absolutely shocking. But I think there is a lady called Catherine. She has a group on Facebook called Sustainable Accountants and Bookkeepers, and they talk about sustainability in that group. So this is becoming a topic that everybody needs to know about. So why would you like to empower accountants and bookkeepers to kind of think about this, and what could they possibly be thinking about? Where do they start?
I don't know where they start, because each journey is individual. So I can tell you where I started, which was in the loo. And I was looking at loo roll one day and I thought, that's weird. That's pink and it smells really nice. And it's really soft. And then I thought, I wonder how they get that. How do they make that? And then what happens when I flush? Like, where does it go?
Yeah.
And so if you are an inquisitive mind, and lots of accountants and bookkeepers are, there is a right answer, there is a solution. And so my brain went, right, how do they make it? Chemicals to process the wood or pulp, chemicals to make it into the right color, chemicals to make it smell pretty, chemicals to make it soft. Okay, that's not good. Then I'm going to put that in a very sensitive area of my body. That's a bit weird. And then I'm going to flush it down the loo, and that goes into the water process, the water cycle. And that's going to then need treatment at the other end. There's a lot of stuff going on to make soft, pink, smelly, or nice smelling loo roll, and then to deal with it the other end. What if we just didn't have it going in at the front? And at the end, it was fine. It was easier to deal with. And the old saying, prevention's better than cure. Surely, like, of all things, preventing the worst things going into our water is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. And I then, because I'm obsessive, and particularly during lockdown, I had some mental health challenges and I couldn't sleep. And I have this obsessive mind. I then looked into tea bags and batteries and cars and everything, even the food I eat or how I travel, how I transported myself. Everything was up for debate. And it just feels like we are given a whole load of solutions to how we clean ourselves, how we wash ourselves, how we live, what we eat, how we travel around, that aren't actually that useful or helpful. And then I looked at it from a business owner's perspective. So what could I as a business owner do? I can make better decisions. So I can choose to not have those things coming into my business. I can choose to make it possible for my employees to come to work in an active or public transport, active travel, like walking or cycling, or public transport, rather than having to drive. And then I just thought, well, is that enough? What if I could do this for my clients? And I don't know whether you know, I was the first B Corp accountant in the UK. And so I had been through a process of discovery there to understand what better business means. And I then started talking to my clients about it.
Before we go down that road, I know
Yeah, yeah.
there's some people that don't understand what the B Corp is.
Okay.
So would you like to explain that?
Thank you for slapping me on the wrist. That was
You're
an
welcome.
assumed piece of knowledge. So B Corporation is a movement of businesses that are trying to redesign capitalism into a way that is better for people, planet, and profit. I'm sure they have their own taglines, but that's pretty much it. That's what I take from it. But it's about doing business, but better, in a better way. So 7 years ago, when I formed the Kung Fu Accounting, I knew we were going to be B Corp, and so I went straight away for B Corporation certification. And it's like a rubber stamp on your business that says, yes, we're ethical, and we've had someone else marking our homework to make sure that it's okay. And the movement itself has its own problems. So people might know Brewdog is quite a famous example of a B Corp that had some issues around the way that they treat their humans. So it's not perfect, but what is? It's a good yardstick, though. It's a good place to start. So I was helping my clients, and it just occurred to me that if I could help all of my clients, that's, I don't know, let's say however many businesses that is. But if I help that number of accountants, or if I encourage that many accountants and bookkeepers to help their clients, that's my big lever to make more of an impact around the world.
Yeah.
And because every single business in the world, in theory, has an accountant and a bookkeeper, or someone to count their money, or someone to pay their taxes, or to report their VAT, if enough accountants think like this, then we can change the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. This is one of the things I love about accounting, this accounting space, is we reach everyone. So if I can help more accountants be better at what they do in some way, reach more people, then it just lifts everybody up. Like I couldn't imagine working in another industry where it has that power. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You're so right. So we are reaching accountants and bookkeepers to help them consider the sustainability. It's not that you're asking them to be a B Corp, is it?
No,
It's
not
you're
at all.
asking them to consider their sustainability and how they work. So how would you like to do that? How is that packaged up? What do you do?
Again, great question. And to be honest, I don't know. I'm making it up as I go along.
I love that answer.
So,
aren't we all?
this is something that I'm called to do as a result of me finding my inner human. Don't get me wrong. As I said before, give me a T account that balances. Give me a trial balance that works. I am happy as a vegan pig in shit. Like, what's a vegan pig? Like, I don't know, a butternut squash in the earth. That's how happy I am. But there is only so far that compliance will take us. And there is a lot, for as long as I've run Kung Fu Accounting, there's been a lot of talk about compliance is dead and advisory is the way to go. Yeah, maybe, but bigger picture, there's no double entry bookkeeping on a dead planet. So the biggest picture that we can possibly operate at is how can we protect our home planet? Because if we don't protect our home planet, we're all going to die. And I forgot what your question was.
Well, just how are you going to help accountants and bookkeepers bring this to life?
So 7 years ago, again, B Corporation was the right thing for me at that time.
Yeah.
I now believe with every fiber of my being that capitalism is incredibly bad for far too many of us. It's extractive, it's destructive, it encourages racism, it encourages othering of other people that look different or sound different or come from different parts of the world. Ultimately, it's about a pyramid scheme funneling money up to the top. And in my world, billionaires shouldn't exist. Or if they do exist, fucking invent something to get rid of malaria or cancer or AIDS or what, like do something good with your money. Don't go off to Mars. That's stupid. So anyway,
that's a direct hit, by the way.
Am I ticking a box? Excellent. So the point is, what can we do? Now, B Corp for me 7 years ago was the right thing. I now firmly believe that even ethical capitalism is still capitalism. So it's
This
still,
is a really, really weird concept to hear an accountant talk about, because you
I live in it.
support capitalism. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
my job is cranking the handle and keeping
yeah.
the hamster wheel whirring.
Yeah. So
That's,
how is this yeah? How are you
yeah,
supporting them? Because it blows my mind.
yeah. So, first of all, I'm using my business as an example. So I'm trying to run a better business, an ethical
Okay.
business. And again, having the B Corp seal of approval was a really useful thing as part of
Yeah.
my journey. But I now believe I need to go through the ring of capitalism and out the other side to, I don't know, maybe the end of the economy, maybe back to a time when we all had enough and we shared our resources. And pirates are a great example of this, where there was a minimum wage guaranteed. So if there was a
Yeah.
if there was a raid and you came away with a load of gold, everyone got some, everyone got fed, everyone got watered, everyone got clothed, everyone was looked after. And that's all we need: food,
Yeah.
water, clothing. Arguably, I mean, I don't want to live on one of those sorts of hippie communes, but one of the naked ones.
They
But
used to appeal to me as a younger person. Not so much these days, but a younger person, definitely.
yeah, so yeah, we need something to drink, something to eat, somewhere to live, and love,
Yeah.
connection. And how do you double entry for that? You can't. You can't account for love or connection. And so it doesn't fit in the economy. And so therefore the economy, and by extension the accounting that supports the economy, isn't complete, because there are things that happen outside of the accounting, outside of the economy. And so by being the example, being the first B Corp, by trying to run a business in an ethical way, by trying and by sharing that as well openly.
Yeah.
Anyone can ask me a question and I will either say fuck off, that's personal, or I will say yes, and this is exactly what we did. And one of the things that, as I said, I've been called to do this recently is that if I can work with accountants and get them to run better businesses, and also start poking them and say, hey, why are you having your bacon sandwich for breakfast? That's a bit weird, isn't it? Or why are you drinking milk from another mammal? That's a bit weird, isn't it? If you can get those sorts of conversations happening more regularly, and I found this with my clients, if I can do this with accountants, that's going to cause eyebrows, or one eyebrow, to be raised. And they'll start asking questions, I hope, because that's what accountants are great at, and bookkeepers are great at. Oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Oh, where's the paperwork? Like, where's the audit trail? Where's the decision making behind that decision? And most of the decisions, it occurred to me, like drinking cow's milk, for example, that was forced upon me when I went to nursery. Every child was given free milk. Brilliant, great.
Good for the
But
bones,
why?
right? Good for the bones.
Why? It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, there is
Cow's milk is not designed to fatten up a human child. It's just weird.
There's a whole story behind the marketing campaign that went into that.
Yeah. And you can take that same logic. Once you've had that inquisitive process kind of triggered in you, you can then do that for every single thing. So why am I driving an hour to get to work? Why is there no public transport? Why I don't know, why is it acceptable for that person to wear a suit and shirt and tie, and this person here who is wearing a t-shirt and ripped jeans and has tattoos everywhere, why is he unacceptable and why are they acceptable? Every single thing is based on someone else's motive, someone else's meaning, someone else's reason. And the more I dug, the more I realized that it was about extracting someone else's money and putting it in, insert your least your worst billionaire's pocket.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
There is a lot of money in this world. There is a lot of money, and most of it's sitting there not doing anything useful.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing, is that there is so much money, and money is imaginary. Money is made up, literally made up.
Yeah.
So we don't need money unless we want to conform with society. And if you don't conform with society, then it's a bit weird, and you're seen as an outcast.
There's going to be a trial happening shortly. 30 people in the UK, half of them up north, half of them in London, are going to be given a £1,600 a month basic income, which I think is a really interesting trial. There's lots and lots of questions whether this would be a reasonable thing, but the person who was talking about it in the article was like, we are not going to be able to do anything there isn't going to be a choice. We are going to have to implement a basic income level to everywhere. Otherwise, we're going to hold on, words have gone again. If we don't have this basic income level, then the void, the gap between poverty and wealth is just going to become too fast, too big. And he thinks with everything that's going on, he was talking about climate change being one of the drivers. I'm not sure, I haven't quite made the connection, but people are going to start to suffer.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting trial.
I mean, but the chunk above that is get rid of money altogether. And that's where I want to live, in that chunk above that.
But it's so far.
Yeah.
It's so far away. Like, it's very difficult to imagine a world, because you can't just have a country. You have to have a world.
Yeah.
And then all systems that you've ever relied on ever in your entire life start to crumble and fall down. That leaves you feeling exposed, vulnerable. You don't know, there is so much uncertainty. And one of the points that I know you wanted to raise here was that this level of perfection, that, you know, this utopia, you know, or what we're aiming for, contradicts all your professional training.
Yeah.
So how can we get there?
So I don't know is the honest answer. And I've thought about this a lot. So I want to live in that world. And yes, it is really hard to imagine, but it's not impossible to imagine, because money hasn't been around forever. So it is possible to go back to a time and learn lessons from history. And if the support network is in place, then the other side of it is that everything that we've ever told, all the systems that we've ever been involved in through our whole lives, and I'm 41 now, so, and I worked this out because I thought it was interesting. I've been an accountant for 52% of my life, and 52%, like that's the majority, right?
To do.
Oh yeah, but in Tory world, I am a majority accountant, so that means I'm all in 100% Brexit. I mean 100% accountant. I shouldn't have said the B word.
Look, I said you can swear. I didn't say that level.
But yeah, so I personally believe that everything that I've ever been taught, everything that my parents have been taught, has been in some way interfered with for a particular agenda.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that agenda is right. My world has already crumbled. I've had mental health challenges. I've had panic attacks. I've had months and months and months of throwing up before I go to work, because I feel the cognitive dissonance of not being in a position where I can truly be who I want to be, even though I run my own business. And my job is not to say, by the way, here's the answer. I don't believe that's my job. There are far cleverer people out there doing that work. My job is to say, hey guys, shit, there's a problem here. We need to do something about this. My job is to be the burglar alarm rather than the police coming to arrest the burglar. Or that's a really bad analogy, but you get the point. So yeah,
the early warning system.
It's everything I've ever been taught from school, from my parents, from university, from all of my professional training. There is a right answer. There is a debit and a credit, and everything must balance. But when you get the debits and credits big enough, eventually the end result is that all of the value ends up with those billionaires.
Yeah.
And there is so much money in the world. There should not be people in my town living on the streets, or not being able to eat, not being able to feed their children. That's it's wrong. It's so
it
wrong.
Makes me angry.
And it's a political choice to not support these people.
So I feel, and this is another reason why I particularly enjoy supporting accountants, I feel that we are reaching people who have opportunities. Like, you can take control of your life with a business. You absolutely can. And it kind of spreads the wealth, spreads the power. If we can create more small businesses that are supporting each other in smaller ecosystems, we can support this. We can reduce this level of what's the word that I'm looking for? This division between wealth and poverty. You know?
Yeah. And who? What's a better example of a small business as a small local business than a bookkeeper or an accounting business?
Exactly.
We are central to the communities that we serve, whether they are geographic, whether they are industry based. We are central to the businesses that we serve, and therefore the communities. And so one of the things that we do, and the people that go through the course that I'm running for to build a better ethical business, is one of the things that we do, which actually the current cohort haven't quite heard yet. So if they're listening to this, they're going to get a sneak peek into something that's coming up. But it's about choosing who your suppliers are. And can you, if you control spending, can you put that into a ring fence and say, actually, we're not going to spend any money beyond our county. And then every pound that I spend as a business owner, I know is benefiting someone who lives down the street from me. It's not going again to that millionaire who's trying to fly to space.
Yeah. So I have I know an accountant who refuses to work with businesses who sell on Amazon.
Good.
Like simply refuses, doesn't hit their ethical criteria, so therefore it's not a thing. I mean, there will be other people that do, and other it horses for courses, but the more people we have out there doing good things. And by the way, I do buy off Amazon, so I'm not one of those.
Right, that's it. End of podcast. I quit.
Like, nothing but honest, you know.
Yeah. There's still time, Kelly. We can change you.
Bit by bit, but you've got like millions of battles to choose from, right? And you've got to kind of allocate your time in places where it's going to do the most good. So we are not a perfect system. We can just try and do the good in the areas that we not favor, but things that pull on our own heartstrings. For me, I'm really invested in supporting people who are homeless, who are on the breadline, you know, so that's where my energy goes. At some stage, it will become more important for me to focus on where I'm buying. What did I buy last? Oh, a heat lamp for my bearded dragon. You know,
wow.
At some point, that in itself will become a focus of mine. But right now, I've got other priorities, and I think that's really important for everyone to know. We cannot fix all problems at once. Can't do it.
No. So my friend John, he keeps banging on about this, so I've got to mention, and it is a genuine my friend John. It's not an imaginary my friend. My friend John Burgess, if you're listening, he always says there's an example where it's only one plastic bottle, said 8 billion people.
Yeah.
We all can make a difference, all of us, by our choices. And to go back to your point about where you spend your money, in a world, in an economic system, in the capitalist model, money is what's important. So arguably, as accountants and bookkeepers, we should be advising everyone where to spend their money, where to put their money. And so looking at who you bank with, where your pension is, and where you spend your money, who you're giving your money to, is really, really important. And it fits perfectly into the role of an accountant and bookkeeper to talk about those things. Totally. It's not to advise, it's not to judge, but it's definitely to say, hey, by the way, did you know about this? And be a signpost and let other people make the decision.
And going back to one of the first points when we started discussing, this is becoming a topic that more and more people care about. And if you're the one at the forefront of that, talking about it, advice, once again, not advice, but talking about where the money goes and how it's spent, then that's a really positive thing, or it could be a really positive thing for your business.
And if imagine that, if an accountant shows that they give a shit, or a bookkeeper comes along and says, hey, we boycott Amazon and this is why, and there's no judgment, there's no, hey, Kelly, you're a shit human, there's none of that. It's just, this is why we made this decision. And it's about empowering decision making, which is pure bookkeeping and accounting. That's exactly what we're here to do, to help business owners make better, more informed decisions. So it fits perfectly. So
talk to me about a mosquito in a tent, and I think we're kind of covering it already, but because you want to introduce a word into the dictionary, and I think actually to introduce a word into the dictionary, I think it's the Oxford Dictionary, is it? Yep. They need it written down at least 5 times in various publications in order for it to be included. So you know,
does it include the publication that I want to write myself? Does that count, or does it need to be like the Times or the Sun? Or something?
I just think it needs to be in publicly accessible places. So I think you should just make this happen.
That's every LinkedIn post for the last week covered. So again, my friend John, my real friend John, he talks about every individual can make a difference because we are all one collective, and that's great. But then the other side of that is that a lot of people say, well, I'm just one small business, I'm just one person, what difference can I possibly make? And so the argument to that is, well, if you don't believe that one individual can make a difference, try sleeping in a tent with a mosquito, because that's going to really interrupt your night. Now, that quote was attributed to the Dalai Lama. And have a feeling he may have been cancelled recently for saying something very stupid to
I think it was more than saying something, but we'll
yeah.
continue. We will skip over this point.
So yeah, if you can edit this bit out, that'd be lovely. But technically, I think the quote is attributed to the Dalai Lama, and that's so empowering, because the smallest little thing that you can imagine, I mean, you can probably imagine smaller things, but a mosquito can really interrupt your night. So imagine a whole swarm of mosquitoes that is all talking the same language, doing the same thing, trying to make the world a better place. That would be really powerful and potentially transformational. And so I don't like mosquitoes as a plural, so I came up with mosquiti. And so that's it. The people on the Counting Change course, the people who've signed up to my newsletter, are trying to use our businesses in a way to enact change. So we are a swarm of mosquiti. I don't know whether the other guys know about this yet, but I want us to be buzzing at the edges of capitalism, and that's the
Beautiful.
that's the piracy thing, though, right? It's going to the edge of what's acceptable and then going a little bit further and seeing what's out there, going over the horizon. That's what we need to do. I personally believe that we need to end capitalism. I'm not going to do that on my own, and shouting here on my own is not going to make any difference. It hasn't even stopped you buying stuff off Amazon yet, but one day there will be enough of us talking that change happens, and we can't wait for politicians to enact this change. They are self-serving. They are interested in their job in 4 years' time. So we need to lead that change, and where we lead, they will have to follow, because otherwise they won't have a job in 4 years' time.
Yeah, I would like to see that reform happen. I don't know what needs to happen, but I would like to see it reformed. We need more good people in positions of power, and this is once again why I love small businesses so much. The more
there are
good
6 million
people,
of us in the UK.
But we need more. Like we need small businesses, because the wealthier that we are, the more good we will do. And I think that's where we've gone wrong for so long. We've had some very nice, good people that have not valued money because we get told it's greedy, and there's so much shame around money. But actually, if you flip it, and this is one of the lessons I had to learn after becoming a business owner, because I'd just do it all for free if I could. You know, I'm a bit of a socialist. I would just do it for free. Can't do that. Need to earn some money. But it's not. I had to learn that it's not greedy. It's not greedy. And the more money I have, the healthier my bank balance is, the more good stuff I'm going to do in the world, the more I'll be able to give, the more time I'll be able to support people. And that was a real learning curve. So yeah, more good people doing more good things is where I'm leaning to right now. I'm not all for like capitalist downfall, because it's such a hard vision, for me. But I think we should be leaning somewhere towards it.
Yeah, and if you don't believe that, let's say it's not the end of capitalism, but socialism or something where we all look after each other, that's the NHS.
Yeah.
That's public transport.
That's the NHS when it's working efficiently and we're funding it.
Yeah. But public transport, so in our town, services to the connecting villages have been cut after 5 o'clock in the week. So if you work in town, you can't get home on public transport.
What use is it?
Because that particular journey has 1 or 2 people on it, and so it's not economically viable for the bus company to put them on. But if they weren't so worried about profit, and that's where I guess ethical capitalism comes in, if they weren't so worried about profit, they could have one service subsidizing the late night services, where vulnerable individuals might be able to get home safely on a public transport service, rather than having to risk alternatives. I don't know, but it just feels like we've gone too far the other way.
No, I agree with you. So I want to clear up some stuff, because we've covered a lot of ground here. So I want, for the course that you're running currently with your mosquito, are you changing them into I tried to recall a quote then. Are you going to change them into vegans? Are they going to need to make substantial changes to their life? Is it going to be a difficult transformation for them? Because sometimes people worry, like they worry that it's going to be too much. So where is that line for you?
I think Kelly, you probably know that if I had my way, we wouldn't eat meat.
Mhm.
But it's not my job to impose that on other people.
Okay.
So it's about being an example and about asking questions, challenging the status quo, and pointing out things that I have learned in my time, my 41 years as an apprentice human being. It's things that I've learned that I believe are correct, but I'm not going to say, hey, Kelly, don't buy off Amazon. Well, I will say that, don't buy off Amazon. But I'm not going to say, hey, Kelly, you
I'm
need to
never
be
going to talk
exactly
to you
like me.
again if you don't.
Well, yeah. So this might not even get to air if I say it once more. Who knows? So I'm not. It's not my job to impose my will upon other people. It's my job to say, "Oh, this is an interesting thing that you're doing. I do it this way," and then get people to ask that question themselves
Yeah.
and explore within their heart, within their soul, within their body about what the correct thing is, and just it's being a mosquito. It's provoking. It's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I didn't really want to know about that. Maybe I should think about it more, and then I can make a better decision, a different decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of to make the point that you're not enforcing anything onto people, but it is about not being naive anymore.
Yeah.
Just opening your eyes a little bit more and being exposed to a little bit more. And this is painful stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about some interesting topics when I did the uprising.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you have to change, and that's painful. So you have to do everything in moderation. It has to be manageable change.
So specifically on this course, then it's a 10-week course designed for business owners. It's an hour a week with the community call, and it's one topic, and it's just a series of questions or ideas, and it's a conversation. You don't have to take any action as a result of it. The recommendation is that you do. And I guess the idea of having it as a group is that there's a little bit of peer pressure or competition that says, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to. And so we are slowly or maybe even rapidly making changes to these businesses and then being able to communicate it to their clients, which is what's ultimately talking about all of this stuff. Even if you don't change a thing, I've talked to you about it, so you're aware of it.
Yeah.
That means that when someone else talks to you about it and you might think, hey, that person had a brilliant idea. What you might not realize is that the seed was planted by me. And that's how change happens.
Definitely.
And to go back to the point of it being uncomfortable, again, my job is not to say you must do this or else. Think of a butterfly. So starts off as a wiggly little thing with legs, grows its own house, and then it needs to wrestle and fight to get out of that cocoon in order that it can then be strong enough to live the next part of its life. And part of the struggle of that emergence from the chrysalis or the cocoon, I never know which, are they the same thing? I don't know.
It is chrysalis.
But so once they get out, they then stretch their wings, the wings dry out in the air, and then they fly off. But part of the struggle, and it's a personal struggle. If I cut open the chrysalis, then they don't have the struggle. They don't have the strength to then fly. So that butterfly is a butter walk. Do you know what I mean? So my
that
job,
one's not going to take off. Literally.
Yeah. So it's about the personal struggle, and I've been through that struggle, so I can stand beside you, and I can say, yes, it's really shit, isn't it? When you go out for dinner and there are 10 people around the table and you're the one who has to ask for the special menu, that's really like socially awkward. I mean, I've given up caring, but there are going to be situations where you are an outlier until you're not. But someone's got to go first. Someone's got to be brave enough to say, yeah, I do think that's a bit shit, so I'm not going to do that anymore.
Well, we're gonna need to bring this to a close.
What?
But you can come back on and talk about this any time. But there are two things I need to know. I'll save the last question for in a minute. But before that, are you asking for business owners to come and learn with you, or are you asking for accountants to come and learn with you, or is it let's just invite people and that we can all learn collectively?
Yes. All of those.
All of those. I just want to make sure that anyone that's listening knows if they are welcome or not.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone is welcome, even people who shop on Amazon. So the thing is, I thought for me to be the most impactful human I can be, I need to change accountants and I need to change the accounting industry. Yes, that is true. It is also true that there are business owners out there who are like I was 7 years ago, who didn't know what to do, who didn't know where to turn, who didn't know how to build an ethical business. I've done it and I've learned some very hard lessons. So if those people want to come along and we build a community together, that's great. And it's, as I said, 6 million self-employed businesses in this country. We can change the way the business operates in the UK, maybe even the world, just by talking. And
It would be
I
nice.
don't know whether you know, I like a bit of a chat. So
Yeah, it would be nice for the UK to be leading on this, wouldn't it?
yeah, instead of leading on corruption, yeah, wouldn't it be nice?
That would be different. All right. So, what is the sexiest thing about accountants, Scott?
Well, this is a complete surprise of a question. I had no idea this was coming up. So I'm gonna challenge you on that question. So bookkeepers are more important, more sexy than accountants. If you don't have a great bookkeeping system in place, if you don't have a great bookkeeping process, if you don't have a great bookkeeper, the accounting can't happen. So actually, bookkeepers are really fucking sexy, and I wish I was a bookkeeper. I really do. Like, that is where I can add most value to a business's owner by getting brilliant, reliable data. So bookkeepers are sexy. That is why. Accountants are sexy, but accountants brackets bookkeepers, because we connect every single business in the world and we have the power to change every single business in the world. And what greater ambition, what greater intention, what greater purpose for a business owner than that?
And hardly recognized. Like, I have to fight this fight every day. You accountants and bookkeepers don't realize the impact that they're having on the world.
Yeah.
So, right. Thank you ever so much for coming on and being my guest. This is a really important topic, and I hope that people join you and just come along on this journey with you. Like, I really do. So keep in touch, and I would like to hear how it goes. And I might stop buying on Amazon. Maybe.
I'm not going to check. Honestly, I don't sit outside your house looking at the delivery driver. Honestly.
No, but my accountant will know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Thank you ever so much, and I will see you next week.
My pleasure.